Oh, that Gideon. Judges chapters 7 and 8. Gideon has some success and then failure. Sometimes the times we're most vulnerable is just after a time of success. We see this pattern a couple times in the scriptures, but we see this here with Gideon. Gideon leaves those fleece mornings confident in God and God's call on him. So he gathers an army. He is a mighty warrior now. The army, though, is too big for God. Well, it's too big for Israel. The problem from God's perspective is if the army is big enough that Israel has any shred of possibility, they could say, look what we did. We did this. Wow, we're great. We won. God's going, no, that's not the point of this. The point of this is so that you'll remember who I am, so you'll get yourselves back into covenant faithfulness, so I can bless you, so that you can be a blessing to the nations, so then the nations will see that Yahweh is the true God, and they will turn from their false gods. All of this is in view here. If Israel thought they were the source of victory, they'd celebrate themselves. And that's a dangerous trap for all of us. We take too much credit for what is not about us, which is often just about anything. It doesn't mean we have to think badly of ourselves. It's that we need to give credit where credit is due and be thankful for the successes and where we prosper and flourish, that we enjoy that. It's a gift from God. The army gets reduced in different ways, and then with this small band, off they go. Gideon follows God's instructions. He gets encouraged along the way, hearing how God is already at work demoralizing the Midianites. This massive army, and this Gideon. And victory happens, but in the victory come the seeds of an even greater defeat. The Midians begin to flee, and Gideon calls out for one of the other tribes kind of in that region of Israel to come help us to fully rout the Midians so we can just break their oppression. But the tribe gets upset when, hey, why didn't you bring us in at the very start? We could have, been a part of this victory from the beginning. And they're also kind of upset that the honor of leadership, the honor of this victory went to someone from one of the smaller tribes, one of the weaker tribes, one of the small clans. This tribe is like, we want to be important. We want to have the mantle of victory. We want to have that reputation. And we're kind of annoyed that you had success. It's kind of like sometimes as Christians, and it can be particularly bad as pastors, when another church in town is growing or seeing God at work, and there's this, well, there must be something going on there, or not celebrating, hey, God's moving, this is great, and celebrate that. What makes it that we can't celebrate where others have success at times? Anyways, Gideon, he got snubbed, and then he gets further snubbed, as you read, by a couple of towns that they wouldn't feed his soldiers. And here Gideon promises vengeance upon them. Again, revenge is something never good for us to take into our own hands. There's the saying, revenge is a dish best served cold. Revenge is a dish best not even put on the table. Vengeance is mine, says God. After the victory is secure, Gideon follows through on his threats and punishes these towns for not acknowledging his call, his authority, his leadership. Basically, here we see success has just gone to his head, and Gideon forgot who and what had made him a great warrior. Israel, then, the 12 tribes go, Gideon, would you be our king? Saul was not the first person to be kind of made king, or at least asked, a time when Israel asked for a king. Israel goes to Gideon, Gideon, be our king. And he refuses that, kind of. He accepts it in practice. He asks for a reward for what God accomplished through him, and maybe That's not bad in and of itself. I don't know, except how he used it. He made items that would be priestly items, things that only the Levites or the high priest um, should kind of have. And so what he does is basically he creates these items, and they're items that actually we read later generations would actually worship. They go, hey, we want to worship those items because a great victory was won, and maybe if we give honor and respect to these items, then the power that was at work there would be at work today. Gideon made his home a rival place of worship to the tabernacle. He calls an illegitimate son of his, my father is king. Yeah, Gideon was flawed. Gideon forgot who had won him the victory. Didn't take long. And he inadvertently and intentionally led the nation further away from Yahweh. And we're going to see the seeds of Gideon's failure bear even greater painful fruit for Israel as we keep reading this book of Judges. So just pause for reflect today. Are there times where you had great moments with God and you saw God work, and then following that, there was a time of failure, a time of, just, and not just that things didn't work out. Well, I'm not talking about circumstances. I'm talking about you just kind of just were connected with God and then saw something great happen. And then afterwards, there was just this, not even a lull, where all of a sudden something you thought hadn't been an issue rose up again. A weakness, a sin that you're just a little more susceptible to, just reared and you kind of gave in. It's because I think sometimes success lowers our guard to our own weaknesses. It makes it easier for us to be tempted and to fall into things that we thought were no longer issues. So here's what I want to encourage you to do today. Be thankful for where you're at, for what you have. Be thankful for what God has done and is doing in your life. And remember Him intentionally as the source of every good gift. Remember Him. As you do, may God bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you. And today would you know His peace. God bless.